Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today for our webinar, Discover the Value of Optimized Transportation Logistics. And we're going to be discussing the benefits of utilizing a control tower strategy. Here is an agenda of what we'll be covering today. First, I'm going to go through a few housekeeping items. Then I will introduce today's speaker. Then we're going to talk about the control tower strategy, followed by the Serva journey for optimization reimagined. And then we'll have some time at the end of the presentations for some Q&A. So just a few more items here. The webinar is being recorded today, and all attendees will be provided with the link to view that recording. And so you'll receive that email in the coming days for how to access that. Please submit your questions anytime throughout the event. To ask a question, you can type it into the question panel on the GoToWebinar toolbar menu, and we'll save questions and answer them during the Q&A session following today's speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce today's speakers. First, we're going to hear from Dr. Jos Kant, who is ORTEC's Chief Retail and Transportation Strategist. He's also a full-time professor of logistics optimization at Tilburg University. He is involved in the Global Optimization Academy of TNT and the Scientific R&D program at the Dutch Institute of Advanced Logistics. At ORTEC, Jos is responsible for industry solutions, and he has special expertise in vehicle routing and dispatch. He's delivered solutions for Coca-Cola, TNT Express, Walmart, Tesco, and FedEx, among many others. Jos holds a PhD and master's degree in computer science, so we're very excited to have him today. Next, we're going to hear from Jesus Unzueta, who is the SVP and Global CIO at Serva. He joined Serva in 2011 as Vice President and CIO of Serva's Moving Services Division and was appointed to Senior Vice President and CIO of Serva Global Operating Platforms earlier this year in February. He is a 20-year veteran of corporate information technology management, primarily in high-tech companies, and has led all aspects of global IT, including business and mobile application delivery, technology infrastructure management, SaaS product development, and e-commerce engineering and product hosting. Jesus has participated in the CIO Institute at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, and he holds an MBA from University of Southern California Kelley School of Business. We are so excited to have Jesus today on our webinar and to go through his journey at Serva. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand over the presentation to Dr. Jos Kant to get us started with the control tower strategy. Jos?
Thank you, Melissa, and thanks a lot for the interest today in this webinar. I'm also excited to explain more about this strategy. First of all, there's a lot of interest currently from the industry in control towers, from suppliers, from logistics service providers, from software vendors. And why is this? Well, first of all, if we look to all kind of analyst reports, and here you see the reports on supply chain from Gartner and Capgemini, you see where is the current interest in. Well, that's not only in reducing cost, but more also in improving customer service to improve the growth and efficiency, and in particular also the visibility. So from the industry, these are the main drivers currently, which is also driving for a control tower strategy. And today we are talking a little bit more about transportation. And if we look to the transportation needs, and this is the report from i4Transport, one of the leading analyst companies in this area, then the #1 desired improvements in technology and also with the greatest ROI is in route optimization. So route optimization combined with supporting service, growth, and visibility are more or less the main drivers behind this control tower strategy. But what is a control tower exactly? Well, here we see the definition of a supply chain control tower from Capgemini. It is a central hub with the required technology, organization, and processes to capture and use supply chain data to provide enhanced visibility for short and long-term decision-making aligned with strategic objectives. So it's a central hub with technology to provide visibility and support decision-making. Well, and similarly from that, we can define, of course, the transportation optimization control tower, which is similar then, but then focused on transportation. From this definition, you can think of multiple situations to apply it. Here you see a few examples. You can think about the personal control, but also from a location. And in the location, you can think of combining inbound and outbound, or combining planning and execution for a certain site. You can also think of having control tower for your entire company, so over multiple sites, multiple locations to obtain synergies between that. But also you can apply it not only within your company, but also include customers or suppliers or third parties, agencies, etc. And I think that's one of the examples where Serva will tell later their application about. And of course the last one is to apply it also in horizontal collaborations over multiple supply chains with other companies, which is the highest level. So if you look from a control tower strategy, then we think that from a company onwards, you really can talk about the way of a control tower. Since we are talking here about transportation, it is quite natural that a transportation management system should be a good foundation. However, due to a recent research by IBM, it was found out that a TMS is not a good foundation for supporting such a control tower. And why is this? Well, because the most important improvement points for the TMS currently nowadays is to support the complex operations, to planning international operations, to have all kind of optimization power, and also to deliver transparency. Well, and these are of course the main pillars of a good control tower. So, and for that, well, the current TMS are unfortunately not able to support that. And that is exactly where the ORTEC solutions step in. They really have the capabilities to support those kind of elements. That's where they have been developed for. More precisely, if we go back to the previous picture, that means that in each of those steps, functionality is available for supporting those areas. First of all, on a location level, then of course multiple users should be able to plan together, inbound and outbound, or planning and execution, and have all those optimization capabilities. If you think about on a company level, then you should have a central capacity, a central database, a central overview over multiple divisions that you can combine transportation over multiple depots. So apply cross-docking or multiple depot loading, co-loading, etc. If you do it, well, including your suppliers or agencies, then also you should be able to deliver a platform that subcontractors, agencies can use, and also that you can deliver real-time visibility to your customers, to the customer of your customer, to management, well, to everybody. And the final step, over multiple companies, then the environment acts as a kind of 4PL, that it is optimizing over multiple companies and deliver a total optimization element. How did we do that? Well, we created, as I said, an environment, a transportation environment, and that platform is now implemented over 100 times at various customers with those functionalities and deliverables. So it is centralized, it is real-time, it delivers visibility and transparency and dynamic planning and scheduling, and of course, because that's the DNA of ORTEC, it's all about optimization power. To step a little bit further in those kind of functionalities, let me give a few details on those elements. First of all, it is centralized. So that means that we have one platform, one environment, central database which can support multiple variants of transportation. So like multimodal or like contract logistics, like for distribution and retail, trucking. And in the example of today with Serva, it can not only be used for transportation companies but also for moving companies, for shippers, for retailers and others, where it goes from planning to execution to event management to do reporting afterwards, and that again as input for the capacity management the next day. The second thing is that it is not only one database, but also it gives real-time visibility. So that means that it's not a batch interface, but it is real-time embedded with ERP systems or other back-office systems, and it supports all kinds of logistic concepts. In the example below, you see a truck with blue goods and a truck with orange goods arriving at a depot, and then some cross-docking where the blue and the orange ones are mixed. And of course, if the truck with the blue goods has a delay, then both trucks which are departing will have an impact. So these kind of dependencies should be supported. And this is an example of cross-docking or merge in transit. But similarly, you can have the example with swapping or changing drivers or trailers, or with intermodal or other things of modality, and with multiple depots. So all this kind of, say, complex logistic concept should be supported in a simple way, and that's what the platform is doing. And if it has those ingredients, then it is able to support optimization from a more central perspective. So that, for example, in this picture, that you can have a truck driving from one DC to the other, then do store deliveries from the second DC, then go to a customer or supplier for backhauling, and then delivering it back to that DC. So it supports all kinds of multi-depot optimization, both for asset and non-asset based businesses. And also it has all kinds of functionalities for certain sub-industries, like I showed in the previous slides. So like bulk or food retail or contract logistics or others. That the functionalities which are necessary for those areas are there. And of course taking all kinds of restrictions into account, like driving time, environmental zones, emission elements, and it follows multiple resources, so the truck, the trailer, the driver, independently. And that is shown to all users. Of course, to the user who is making the plan, say the planner or the dispatcher, but also to agencies who can use that part of the planning to do their own planning. It can be shown to the management, and it can be shown to others via all kind of mobile devices. And that's not only a one-time shot, but it is real-time visibility. Well, all these things maybe sounds a little bit theoretical, but let's give a practical example before I hand over to Jesus. In the example here, this is of a big retailer in Europe, one of the top 3 in the world, where in the past each DC made its own planning for delivering goods to the store, so their own store delivery planning. Now they've made a central platform with the ORTEC transportation solution, where at a centralized level they do the P of planning. That planning includes multi-depot planning over all DCs, to all stores for delivery, including backhauling at the suppliers, and all those stakeholders, so suppliers, DCs, and retailers, they can view the plan, what you see with the V. And also the suppliers have to approve their part. And this planning is also sent to the carriers. And by the way, one of the users of the control tower is also one of the carriers, the 3PL, and all the others are informed. They also can view the plan. And at the end of this, all the results will come back at the central level at this control tower. So this is a perfect control tower example for making the plan over all elements, also to have real-time visibility during the execution. The retailer can see exactly when each truck will arrive on the day based on actuals, and also deliver all the results to see the trends over the days. This is only one example, but in this case there are multiple examples of ORTEC, and you see they're here in the slide at the bottom, where this platform is already implemented. I already mentioned it's implemented over 100 times at various customers, retailers, shippers, and 3PLs. And well, therefore it's my pleasure also to hand over to Jesus, who will explain this concept from a Serva perspective.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Jesus Zweta, and I'm going to be walking you through what has been Serva's journey, not just with respect to our planning and dispatch arena and in our partnership with agents, but also sort of our entire supply chain optimization program, a multi-year program that we engaged in a couple of years ago. So just to set the stage, and I just want to make sure that the slides are advancing. I apologize. Melissa, I am advancing the slides, but it doesn't seem to be working. So can you take care of that?
Yes, I will take care of that for you. No problem.
Okay. So moving on to who Serva is and what we do. Serva is a worldwide relocation and moving company, and the marketing there is everything you need, everywhere you need it. We're very focused on engaging with our customers for global mobility. Probably some of our more recognized brands, other than Serva, in the marketplace we are the hauling authority for North American van lines as well as allied van lines. But we have an entire division as well set up for Serva Mortgage, Serva Relocation, corporate housing, and then of course settlement. So really any time a company, in fact some of the companies that are customers are represented on this on the participant list today. So imagine if you have an executive or if you're relocating somebody to work in a new area, a new arena of the world, we would take care of everything from offering that person household goods moving, as well as corporate housing, relocation benefits, and then of course mortgage for the disposition, for the sale and acquisition of a home, both in the origin as well as the destination locations. Advancing to the next slide, it's important to understand that with respect to our planning and dispatch family, we support Allied and North American agents. The numbers are there as far as agent locations as well as the locations. I think one key thing and one thing that we've had to work through as we implement our supply chain sort of revamp initiatives is that each of the brands are uniquely different, and we treat each of the brands uniquely different in the sense that they may have different hauling rules, they may have different dispatch rules. Of course, in a business such as household good moves, as you can imagine, the majority of our revenue and the majority of our agents' revenue is really focused, concentrated between Memorial Day, leading off the peak season, beginning of summer, and sort of end capped on the end of summer with Labor Day. So it's very imperative, it's absolutely imperative that the systems are available, that the planning and dispatch systems are not only available but are efficient, are scalable during those peak seasons, because our agents do their own planning and dispatch. I think as I've engaged with some of the participants at Optimus and other ORTEC events, one thing I think that is different for Serva is the notion of a centralized dispatch, planning and dispatch. We do have that located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but our agents also use the system. So you can find, close to hundreds of people on the planning and dispatch system during peak season, and they're not all centrally located in one area. They're watching their own trucks. They're watching what we call surrendered tonnage, which is tonnage in the system, et cetera. So I think it's important to know that the two van lines are uniquely independent and are responsible for planning and dispatch, just as Serva corporate operations is as well. The next slide sort of references the legacy system landscape, and I know that a lot of people probably have similar slides to this within their own organization. I joined the organization 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago, and when we started looking at what the landscape really means and how these systems interconnect, we knew that we wanted to simplify this and sort of to drive the visibility and the efficiency that we look for in newer systems. We knew that we needed to engage a multi-year project to sort of simplify what this eye chart, this legacy system landscape. So the next slide sort of talks about how we're doing that and sort of how we're transitioning. If you can advance the slide, Melissa. How we're transitioning from our current state there in 2011 to a future state. Of course, we've had the tenants that we have to work within. Obviously, we want to consolidate systems. We can't continue to support the number of systems that we have there and really expect to drive, again, the visibility and efficiency that we need to operate our business. So we've really come up, focused on an enterprise architecture. Really, this is a platform for not just Serva to use, but also for our agents to use within the domestic U.S. And as we gain traction in the rollout here in domestic U.S., also expanding that to Canada, Australia, and where we operate our global organizations as well. One key thing on this slide, and I don't know, hopefully it resonates with a lot of people on the phone call, is the industry, at least from our perspective in the household goods industry, has had a real strong bias of building applications over the years. In fact, when I joined the organization, we had a project that had been going on for a number of years, which was basically to rehost millions of lines of code built on in a COBOL environment to moving off of a mainframe environment, moving it into a client server architecture, and to really build upon and as we implement new applications, really focused on taking a bias away from building the applications ourselves to buying and configuring enterprise applications that are available in the marketplace. And that really focused and started the relationship with ORTEC and the exposure and then the selection of the control tower product for our plan and dispatch services. The next slide talks about how we simplify it and where we envision ourselves getting to in the future. We are a very concentrated organization now on the Oracle platform. We have ORTEC for our planning and dispatch software, and then of course we have IGC from a lead management and lead disposition order management perspective. But our focus has really been built on, one, what are the processes that have been used to date, and what are the new processes that we want to work within? Because when you implement new systems, when you look at things like ORTEC, the control tower, when we look at Oracle, this represents a significant amount of change both within our own internal organization as well as in the agent organizations. And I think one thing important to note here is that we're really taking this opportunity to question a lot of the business processes that have been established and have been used for decades. And so when you do that, it really focuses on what are the systems, what are the applications that can drive those new business processes, but more importantly, what is the change management aspect associated with both the business process change as well as the systems change. And I know it seems unique or challenging, I think, when you look at this slide, to go from 246 independent systems or integrated systems over to 3. And for the most part, we're able to do that within our product set of the Oracle platform as well as ORTEC, and I'm partnering with IGC. From an operating platform perspective, we're really trying to build a synergy between the customer, ultimately that person who is moving their household goods on an Allied truck, on a North American truck, who's selling their home, who Serva is managing the selling of their home. So building that relationship between the customer, Serva, and our supply chain, and really then driving the operational efficiency across all of those partners. Ultimately, one of the things, and I sort of end the slide, end the presentation talking about the customer and the visibility to the customer, but I think visibility into our entire supply chain is one of the major initiatives of the revamp program. And I think that's driving visibility as well as efficiency across the entire organization. When you look at the planning and dispatch, when you look at order billing, if you can imagine, our haulers who, household goods industry, much like a lot of industries, is governed by paperwork and governed by being able to track exact shipments, being able to make sure that it's delivered on time. And typically, historically, that paperwork, if you can imagine that paperwork sitting in the cab of a truck for upwards of 10 to 15 days before it gets sent into an agency, then that agency having time to review the paperwork and before it gets to Serva, and then Serva then needing to make sure that all of the paperwork is there before billing, et cetera, and revenue distribution. So imagine being able to move the needle even by a week or 1 or 2 days, what that means from a cash flow perspective. So we're really focused on, one, driving visibility across customer, Serva, and our suppliers. From an operating platform perspective, these are really the benefits that we're going after, and as you can see on the lower right-hand corner, it's a multi-year initiative. These systems have been built over, literally over decades, and so we're very focused on methodically moving through our entire supply chain, making sure that we're balancing the needs of our agents as well as balancing the pace of change across our organization and across our agent organization. But in essence, I mean, when you do a project like this and a multi-year program, we're really driving, and again, I keep referring to visibility, lower cost to serve per shipment, being able to build visibility throughout the supply chain and also shape demands. If there's an opportunity for us to shape, one, the capacity during peak season, of course, if there's an opportunity for families and businesses to move people in what we call the shoulder seasons, and we can shape that demand to make the revenue a little bit more consistent versus a peak where you still have your capacity is limited, being able to move things to the shoulder season and being able to use the visibility within the software to drive that and those decisions, even when it comes to pricing. Imagine if a family has an opportunity to move, wants to move in August, but because you have the ability to shape capacity as well as shape demand, you can offer a lower price to move in October, November. And I'm not saying a lot of families have that, but the software, being able to shape that demand is really one of our key focus areas of the revamp initiative. This is sort of the revamp initiative program across our entire supply chain. So imagine being able to drive visibility at the very onset of when somebody decides to move or when a company decides to move one of their employees, being able to generate the leads, get that to one of our salespeople or one of North American and allied salespeople in the field. We typically complete what we call a home survey, where someone will go into the home and room by room sort of calculate the weight. And everything in our world from a capacity perspective is based on weight and cube. So imagine in March being able to understand who the customers will be in June, July, being able to plan the loads, being able to plan the trips, and getting visibility 2 months, 2.5 months ahead of when their household goods shipment actually loads on a truck. So it starts with lead generation and estimation, being able to understand what the pricing levers are for any household goods move, any shipment, and then registering it, and then being able to service it. So the control tower, being able to do route planning, suggested planning, being able to show where our trucks are at any given time, and if we have what we call a shipment in distress or servicing, that we need to service a particular order that comes in last minute, being able to understand where our vehicles are across the domestic U.S., being able to understand what is actually and actively on that truck at any given moment, and understanding if we have the ability to dispatch that truck to service that shipment in distress. And then, of course, being able to collect all of the paperwork and then handle the revenue distribution across multiple parties, including our agents, the drivers, or what we call the haulers, the origin agent, servicing the household goods shipment at origin, and then, of course, the destination agent. So the team has been together for a couple of years now, and this year is really where we're starting to see the culmination of multiple years of work coming into play and being released to the agent network. So we have sort of marketed the entire revamp initiative as our quantum, representing a quantum leap forward from our legacy system. So when you see QPD, it's really quantum planning and dispatch. QLab is quantum leads, appointments, and bookings. And being able to take all of that out and deliver it to the field, deliver it to the agents, the people within the agencies that are working. We've delivered a lot this year, and I think the message here is, one, I think we need to be sensitive. Again, I refer to the pace of change, but also taking people that have been in the industry for a number of years and have become very familiar with the systems that they use for lead management, but more importantly, reflective of this conversation, planning and dispatch. You know, one of the things I learned here when I joined Serva was that people have become very familiar and very in touch with the systems that they've used for a number of years and really decades. And what you find is they typically work 2 or 3 screens, and I'm talking about a green screen environment. They typically work, like their fingers and their mind can process 2 to 3 screens ahead of what the actual system is inputting the data, and you can do that over a number of years. Well, imagine all of a sudden on a Monday, once system cutover is achieved, you don't have that familiarization anymore, and now you're working in a web-based GUI environment that is optimizing, that's using visibility into where the trucks are, how you plan shipments, how you build trips, how you put shipments on trucks is uniquely different. And that represents a significant amount of change for any planner and dispatcher, and it's been one of our biggest challenges, I think, to date, is not just the technology that we've chosen and that we've configured for our industry, but also making sure that people are comfortable with the amount of change and the type of change that's coming. And you can see it's touching everyone from the salesperson in somebody's home to planners and dispatchers to our actual drivers who now have tablets in their trucks, are able to tell us when shipments when they've completed a shipment, when they've loaded a shipment, and then being able to, for the most part, because of GPS tracking, understand whether we're going to have service issues if we're outside of our delivery windows that we've set with both corporations, our customers, as well as consumer transferees. This is sort of a different perspective of the supply chain. Again, I think it's the same message, but it's giving a little bit different visibility of how we generate a lead, everything from the Allied or North American websites to generate the leads, how we assign those leads on an iPad using what we call quantum leads appointments bookings. The salesperson on an iPad can go into the home, complete that survey that I referenced, get the right paperwork. Of course, the household goods industry is very consumer protected, regulated from the government, so there's certain things that we need customers to sign off on. There's certain things that we need them to have visibility into, especially one big issue is valuation, before that order even hits our system. And then, of course, picking up with number 4, the trip is being routed and dispatched through our planning and dispatch system. And then, of course, the tablet technology in the truck allows us to complete the load. And number 6 is a new technology that, because we focused on our planning and dispatch system, we know where the shipment is, we know how the trip is progressing for that van line hauler. We know what we know that the consumer has booked with us. We know what their price is. We know the information that we have, regulatory information that we have to provide to them. When we implement systems like this and we've taken that methodical approach, it culminates, again, give the visibility to our customers. So imagine being able, for the consumer, to track their shipment, understand exactly where they are in the process, being able to provide information on their mortgage, on their destination location. They're trying to set up schools. They're trying to set up doctors and dentists. So we are really now taking all of the work that we've done for multiple years, and we're starting to see where, because of the efficiencies that we've gained, the visibility that we've gained, how we can now launch that and make it more visible to the people that we're actually moving. From an ORTEC perspective, I think it's been a great relationship. You know, from our standpoint, from a route planning perspective, it's really improved management of resources. Again, we keep coming back to visibility and capacity, and then an accurate management of events in real time, and just being able to understand where the trucks are, being able to understand what shipments are coming in, when they're coming in, and being able to react in a real-time manner are some of the things that we've been able to do with ORTEC, and as we become more familiar with the system. From a network benefits perspective, I think, you know, one big thing that I've heard is just the amount of training that it takes and the reduction in training new people. It's measured in days, not months. And of course, you know, we're bringing into the industry, for the most part, we're seeing new people come into the industry, but we're also having to conduct our training. We're having to measure our training for people that have been in the industry for quite a long period of time. And again, they're needing to be trained on new applications, on new ways of doing things, and really having a trust and a confidence in the software, that the software is doing it, is suggesting the right trips, suggesting the right shipments for a truck, et cetera. And it takes time for old and young to build that confidence in the system. So these are some of the things that we're focused on within the planning and dispatch solution. This slide sort of talks about the multi-year initiative. You know, a lot of times we get very focused on a go live, and what you learn is that you're probably more focused after go live on improving the system, on understanding coming out of a concept stage, out of a development release, and saying, this is how we think the system's going to act. This is how we're going to configure the system. And what we've really learned across multiple initiatives is that go live is just really a milestone. It's really more importantly how the system stabilizes, how quickly the system stabilizes, and then once you're using it in a production environment, what are all the things that then you need to go into a phase 2, phase 3 release plan, because there's going to be opportunities to learn, and Serva, like every other organization, has learned a lot about the software, about the power of the software across multiple platforms once you get into production and it starts and it's being used out in the field. I think the other thing this shows is that when you look at the release schedule, when you look at how all of these systems are integrated in order to drive that visibility, I think it's I think it's a lot of our time has been spent not just on the configuration of any one system, but on the integration and making sure that data, our critical data, flows from application to application, thereby reducing the the number of entries, the data entry points, number one, but number two, the amount of rework that gets done across multiple systems in our legacy environment, as well as in the systems that our agents use to run their businesses as well. And it hasn't been without our issues and challenges. I think looking back, I think a lot of times you have to constantly reinforce the message and understand what the value is in the multi-year initiative. And I think probably a lot of people on this phone call, project managers, IT members, executives on the phone call, and then our participant list here are probably dealing with a lot of these same issues, right? It's one thing to get executive approval, board of director approval for one project or one component of a project at a point in time. It's another to constantly refer to it and constantly drive the vision, constantly drive the message of a multi-year initiative. And sometimes support is wavering. If you imagine a board of directors can change out across multiple years, leadership clearly changes out, oftentimes changes out, customers change out, et cetera. And so you constantly really have to drive that visibility into the program, into the long-term benefits of the program, like we've engaged in supply chain optimization. And of course, you have to understand that from an agent perspective, I think we use agent, and I probably should have hit on it a little bit at the beginning of the presentation, but these agents, the North American and allied agents, are not franchises. And so it's very important to understand that they have their own successful businesses. They have their own software that they use that we need to integrate with to remove that dual entry need. And the van line, Serva van line, only represents a X percentage of their total business. And so it's very important, and I think, to be understanding and respectful of each of the agencies and understand that this represents a true cost of change to them, both from a resource perspective as well as from a financial perspective. And I think that to also understand that not every agent does things exactly the same way. So one of the challenges specific to planning and dispatch has been building a system with hauling rules and dispatch rules, planning rules, et cetera, that not only meets the needs of hundreds of agents, but is also configurable and tailorable to meet the needs of the individual agent and how they choose to run their own business. And in some cases, we've been able to make a large portion of them happy. In other areas, we haven't been able to make them happy because every business does something different, and the system has to be able to speak to all of both the van line, the rules that are enforced by the Department of Transportation, as well as being configurable for the agents. And it's been something that ORTEC and that Serva and our agent networks have been able to work together over multiple years, I feel, to get right in the system, to take the system live, and then to mature the system. If you think back on the legacy platform that we used over, we say anywhere from 35 to 38 years. and we were still tuning that system, making changes to that system, and we'll continue to do that with the current planning and dispatch system. But I think it's this selection, I think it's this partnership that has allowed us now to focus on, now that we have information in the system, now that we're able to drive visibility into our capacity, into our fleet, into our customers, how do we take that and deliver that to our consumers, to our corporate transferees, to the HR departments that need to know where their employee shipments are, to take the care and feeding of their employees, to know exactly what is happening at any time with their employees' relocation, as well as our consumer business, someone not tied to a corporate move, but choosing to move to a different location in the U.S. or in the world, and choosing Serva or Allied and North American as their household goods provider, providing that same information to them in a web portal, which you see here, the concept of a customer experience portal that lets them know their household goods are well taken care of, that they're being moved with care, that they're going to show up when we say they're going to show up, and that the truck and the shipment is tracking correctly. And then being able to make things for our customers, for our transferees, a little bit easier with a major life event, which is a move, and being able to make sure that they have all of their checklists complete, to make sure that they've selected schools and doctors and dentists. So it's because we're implementing these newer systems that we're implementing technology that allows us to drive visibility and efficiency, and then being able to give these customers that comfort through information, through a portal like this customer experience portal that you see here. We believe will go live here in the early part of 2014 once we understand what data we want to give to the customer and make sure that we further integrate it into the applications that we've already taken live. So that's a little bit about what Serva has done. I think there's been a very good partnership, I think, with ORTEC. I think, from my perspective, we have just started to explore the power of the planning and dispatch system, and we know that there's things that we still want to do before peak season next year. I've done this at Optimus before and other ORTEC events, but I'll make myself available to any questions that you may have within your organization. I also have here with me Megan Lawrence, who was the project manager for our planning and dispatch software for a couple of years now, and now who is also the project manager for the customer experience site. So we'll make ourselves available. If you have any questions, please let us know, or else you can contact Melissa as well. And with that, I'll turn it back to Melissa.
Thank you very much, Jesus. Very great information there, and as well as host and the control tower strategy. I think our attendees certainly got value from today's event. So if you want to ask a question, go ahead and type it into the question panel on the GoToWebinar toolbar menu. I know we just have a few minutes left here to do that, so go ahead and type those in. As I mentioned earlier today, all registrants will be provided with a recording of today's presentation, and you're going to get an email that has the information on how to access that recording in the next couple of days. We're excited to be able to provide you with a white paper that goes deeper into creating a control tower strategy for your business. And here is a link here on the slide, but it will also be included in the follow-up email that has the webinar recording. So definitely go ahead and download that white paper and get some more information. As we're getting some questions, and host, I think that you had a couple that you wanted to ask Jesus.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Melissa. And again, I was also at the Optimus, and I was very impressed again about the story of Serva. A question to Jesus. It's a big change from the old situation to the new situation, and I'm quite curious, what is now the biggest benefit of utilizing this approach, say, in comparison to 1 year ago?
It's a great question. I think the biggest benefit, again, and I don't want to keep saying it, for the sake of saying it, it's very important to us, which is to drive visibility and being able to shape demand where we can. and being able to graphically represent where our needs are, being able to drive visibility through the entire supply chain from both a service perspective as well as from a revenue and financial perspective is one of, I think, the greatest benefits that we need to learn from and that we need to realize. And I think again, we have with the demand being in a very concentrated time frame, over summer when people for the most part want to move their families because their kids are out of school, anything that we can do to drive visibility into the supply chain or throughout the supply chain, I think is one of the biggest benefits, because we have the ability to affect price, we have the ability to affect, obviously, success of the peak season, and then being able to understand, have an insight into service issues if we have service issues through the peak season and beyond.
Okay, thanks a lot. And my second question is, you already mentioned the customer experience projects coming up. What kind of, say, more visibility can you deliver now to the end customer, which will be the project for the next year?
Yeah, Megan Lawrence is with me here. I think I'll let her take that question. I mean, she's really been very focused on understanding what the customer need is, as well as how the systems can provide that.
Right. Thanks, Jesus. From my perspective, I'm gonna take it down another level. Jesus talked about kind of at the executive level what the business is gaining and providing to our customers and agents. But we're also seeing a lot of benefits to the people really in the front lines, those that are doing the work every day in the trenches. They have a lot more visibility to what is available to them, so they can do their jobs more efficiently. And what this platform is enabling us to do is connect the different systems and have that visibility across different departments so that we all are working from and towards the same data. And with the customer experience project, we can then bring in the customer into that fold. So we're going to see reduced phone calls that the customer has to make and reduced phone calls that somebody in the office has to take, because that information is already going to be available right to the customer through different technologies. So by having the ability to bolt on to the systems that we're putting into place, we can then add additional systems, which brings us additional visibility across different platforms.
If you think about where this industry was just about 10 years ago, I mean, I've heard stories, and I'm new to the industry. This is my first foray into the household goods industry, which has been 2 years of learning. But if you think about where this industry was even 10 years ago or less, with planners and dispatchers using card systems or putting their routes and putting their shipments on boards with 3x5 cards, etc., and then people in the agencies as well as within the van line, I've heard stories about every day they would start their day off by calling drivers and seeing where they are and updating the boards in that manner. So imagine the efficiency gains, and again, I'll go back to it, the visibility that we can now drive through technology and really repurpose our employees, as well as agencies being able to repurpose their employees to then communicating with the customer and driving that customer relationship versus simply seeing where their trucks are, if they're on time, and where their shipments are.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your answers and feedback. So, well, very helpful and clear.
And we got one question in from the audience. I think we have time to go ahead and answer that one. And it is, what insight can you offer on the master data requirements, and how have you managed that in your implementation?
It's a great question. From a perspective of master data, and I know that's was at Optimus and talking with other people, and it seems like there's a need to drive that visibility and just that management. You know, I would say that's probably one of the areas that we didn't understand and that we didn't take a real big focus on as soon as we should have, and we're learning from that. But the data and the visibility of the data and the management of that data is absolutely key, and I wish we would have put, to the degree we could, safeguards in the system to make sure that data was being entered accurately, to make sure that data was very, the integrity of that data was very clean, because now what we're seeing, and again, you know, in a project like this, and part of it is one, celebrating the good, but also taking ownership of our mistakes and where we would have learned from, where we could have done better. And I think that's one area where we could have done better, because now that when you talk about customer experience sites, when you talk about the accuracy and the visibility of making decisions based on data, I wish we would have put more safeguards in the system to the degree that we could have, to drive the accuracy and the integrity of the data. But I will tell you one thing that we're learning now is now that we have it, the visibility of that data, being able to use that for historical trends. And this is our first peak season on the system, so year over year we plan to learn a lot more and use it to drive, again, year over year to shape that capacity and shape that demand to the degree we can. It's a great question. I wish we would have done more at the beginning of the project to understand how powerful the data would be and how we could manage it.
Very good. Okay, well, I think that's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank everybody for taking some time out of your morning or afternoon and joining us, and definitely thank you to host and you, Jesus, for giving us a lot of great information and information today. So with that, I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, and same for you. Bye-bye.